Good morning, everybody. It's Jamie Wallace here with your Zoom Q&A for lesson number 3. And looks like my audio isn't set up quite right here. Let me just all right, that should be a little better. All right. Yep, that looks better. Okay. Cool. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for today or this session's Q&A, where we're looking at lesson number 3. And the main focus for today is going to be the sector analysis or sector compass or sector map, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we're going to dive into that and just see some examples. It should be pretty straightforward for most people. So let us dive into that. I'm just going to share my screen here. And we can review the lesson. And if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. We'll keep it pretty informal here. There we go. All right. Well, let us take a look at lesson 3. And again, it's pretty straightforward. As you'll no doubt have noticed, a number of these lessons have multiple components to them, and often we have, not always, but sometimes there is a component that's kind of lesser, or worth less marks, and then sort of a main event here. So today, we're just going to talk about the first section here, where we are doing our site and regional challenges survey. And I do think that's pretty straightforward. We're looking at 2 things, of course. We're looking at some of the site challenges, which that's a really important part of our site analysis, is identifying those strengths and weaknesses and some of the challenges associated with those. And then not only that, we're kind of backing out a little bit from the site and looking at the region itself and what challenges are present there. And those can all play into creating a better design for our clients. And yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. If we look at the rubric here, we'll notice that there's 4 points for the site and regional challenge, and then there's 10 points for the sector compass. So you can see where you may want to spend the bulk of your time here. And so what are some of the things that we're looking for? Well, again, we're dialing into site and regional challenges. If you can include photos and images, those are great, and certainly do provide a little more interest into your slides. So let's just go through a couple of the questions here, and then we'll jump over to the sector compass. So, we're looking at the 3 biggest cultural, socioeconomic challenges in the area. And these are pretty fascinating. I must say that through North America, they're very, very similar, or so it seems. So those are good to consider. Some of the greatest strengths or opportunities in the region. We look at natural disasters. So that's a good thing to dial into, as well as some of the strategies for resilience. So again, we do want to look at where some of the challenges are, but we also want to look and focus on some of the solutions and some of the biggest problems or weak links on your design site. And that's a great item to touch upon. And I'm sure that as you move forward in your design experience, you're going to find that every single site that you're involved with has an entirely different set of challenges to them. And that may be, for instance, we were on a site last year, and the biggest challenge there was water, an abundance of water. And we can go to the exact opposite, where we're on a site a few kilometers away, and it has the exact opposite, where we're having challenges obtaining water. So this is a really key item to dial into. Some of the obstacles that have prevented some of these problems from being resolved, and what has been the cost to date on those. And again, that's another interesting item to look at, and that can really help drive solutions forward. So that, again, is pretty straightforward with the survey, the Site and Regional Challenge Survey. If we look at the template file here, you can see that it is set up pretty straight, it's pretty straightforward. Problems and weaknesses, some of the obstacles, the cultural, socioeconomic challenges here. So again, pretty straightforward. And if you can drop images into the right-hand side of the slide here, it just, adds to the experience of reading through your report here. Now, I will warn you, well, I shouldn't say that. As we go through the course, I'm definitely going to show everybody some of the deliverables that we provide for clients. And there are certain things that you'll notice that we don't provide that are included in your template file here. And some of them, are for educational purposes for the class. And while, say, this is a very interesting section, it all really boils down to, sorry about that. It really boils down to time. And that's exactly how we bid all our projects, is based on the amount of time it's going to take us, a best estimate anyways. And so there are certain things we just will not include, although they may be discussed. So this section plays nicely into the next one, where we're looking at the sector compass. And let us take a look at that. So this is a fascinating part of permaculture design, which this is one of the things that we make a point of delivering on our drawings. And I think it's, a really good step that's early in the site analysis process. And in this case, we're not really dialed into the site so much, but what's going on outside the site that's influencing everything inside that property boundary. And there's quite a wide range of elements that can do that. And there's some examples up here, and some that we want you to include and we'll get to that. But we have sun sectors. So in the winter and in the summer, how do those affect our project sites? Wind, fire, noise, views, wildlife, water flows, and there may be others. I have certainly seen students' examples where they were next to an industrial area, or perhaps they have a fabulous view, but there is a highway behind them. There's all sorts of different scenarios here. And these are some of the things we want to think about when we're putting together our sector compass. And let's see here. So we want social human sectors as well. And not only do we want to identify those, but we also want to identify our approach to them. So how are we going to respond to these? Do we want to amplify them? And an example of that might be winter sunlight. When the sun is low in the sky, we want to get the most from them. We want to get the most from it. Do we want to deflect it? Maybe the heat of the summer we want to deflect, or do we just simply want to accept that into our site? So those are our 3 actions that we want you to consider with each one. And you may find that some of these sectors you apply more than one action to. And so that can be very interesting. Some of the things that we want to have you include in your assignment or on that drawing, of course, is the title, the name, north arrow. So with every design sheet, and let's go to, with every design sheet, as I will call it, we definitely want to have a little title block, and that's what we see in this bottom corner here. And that just gives us basic information on the site location, you know, your name, although I see we can put your name up here, date, you know, coordinates, address. These are all important things to have on every single design sheet that you do, including your name, of course, that's up here. A date is also a biggie, because as you work on designs for others, you may end up with multiple versions of a similar sheet, and you want to ensure that you're looking at the most current one. So with our software, we have what's called a revision. It's a little block in our title block that shows us a revision date. So the most current, you can easily spot the most current file. And yeah, so this is a great example, or the template is actually set up really well to fairly easily fill in. So we want to have your base plan in the middle here, and just try and have your base plan fit completely within that. So sometimes it can be a challenge, but it's best if we can see your property boundary all the way around on that. So that makes it a little bit easier for us to understand. On the template file, there's a couple of really good examples here, and you can take a look at those. And again, you'll see that like with water flow, there's a great example where this student is trying to accept and deflect both the water flows. And that is a great example, because often we get into this flood drought situation where we're trying to manage water during the winter months when it's abundant and outside of the growing season. And then we want to hold and retain it during the summer. And I'm not sure about Washington and Oregon this year, but gosh, we're on a level 5 drought where I live, and it's just been quite incredible. So it really hits home when you are in this kind of a situation, that you definitely want to hold as much water as you can while being mindful of stormwater management during the winter months. So another example on the same sheet here. So take a look at those, and these are great. This is just basically showing you what we're after. And I can show you what we provide our clients. It's similar but different. And I think if you were to go on beyond this class and be designing for others, that you'll find, you know, what really works for you in terms of your deliverables. And again, it's a very individual thing. If you go back, here I'm going to re-log in here. When you're logging in initially to the site, and you go to modules, and I know I've gone through this before with everybody, and you go down to this client interface tab that's under resources, you'll see there's a number of us who have put together videos on our design process, and I highly recommend you take a look at that because it's fascinating. Everybody has a completely different approach. So that is undoubtedly what will happen with yourself. All right, so what I'm going to do here, just show you a, let's see here what we got. I'm not sure why I have two sector. That's interesting. All right, well, we'll look at two. So these are two different projects. Somehow they got a sector analysis on one here. I'm not sure quite how that happened, but this is, basically what we will provide. There's the base plan in the middle, and our base plan, basically we have existing trees, we have contour lines, we have the house and hard surface, and then we have these sectors around it. And these were, on this particular job, this was actually quite an important step for us, as it always is. And in a lot of ways, excuse me, in a lot of ways, I find that this is a great starting point because this will be the first design sheet that we share with our clients. We'll put together the base plan, we'll put together a sector map or sector analysis, and then we'll share this with them and make sure that we're all on the same page. And they may have a few edits they want to see on this. Could be, it could be the privacy, it could be all sorts of things. But this really does help us move forward with the design process, in that we can reference back to this and be very confident that when we get to the end of the design that we have addressed some of these key items. So one on this particular job was this flood sector, and it played into a new retaining wall that was being built on the uphill side of this particular property. And we'll go through some images of that. I'm not sure if we'll do that today, but anyhow, this is basically what we will provide. We give a little bit of an explanation about what a sector compass is, or a sector analysis, and you'll probably find, and we have found this for decades now, when we engage with a client, that it's really an educational process for them, because quite often they want to do the right things with their landscape, but they're not really dialed into say the various steps with permaculture, or simple things like a sector analysis or sector map. So you gotta, a little bit of education along the way is pretty much what we have to do, and which is completely fine. It's just the way it is. And the nice thing about these, we break up our process in such a way where we have multiple meetings with clients through the design phase, and again, it's very inclusive and it's a lot of fun. So we end up, you know, tailoring every design as best we can to meet people's needs and what they're hoping to address with their landscape. So this is one example again, and it's, you know, nothing that's too earth-shattering here. On one side of the property, we had a park and a wooded area that was elevated above the house. And then on the front, there's a major highway out here. There's a big berm and then a highway and then a view beyond. So you may find in your experience this happens where you have an interesting view corridor, but it comes with a cost. And in this instance, it comes with a lot of noise and pollution. It's a very hard site to work on. Because the highway is so close and very, very loud. And there are other sheets here. This is similar but different. In this example, we actually list actions. In this one, we didn't. And this is an earlier drawing, I believe. Not absolutely sure about that. But again, you'll notice I've, in this situation, I was a little bit off with my north up. It's an exception to the rule, so that my sun sectors were rotated a little bit. But again, we have a flood sector, we had privacy, we have wildlife, we have view. So again, there's a number of different ways to demonstrate or depict these things graphically. I probably prefer that. But you may find you do things a little bit differently every time you're putting together one of these. So there are other sheets here, and I don't think I'll really get into those today with you, but we will look at examples through the course of, and if we have a little bit of time today, I might show you a couple pictures of that one project that I was describing here. So let's go back. There we go. Just having trouble seeing the top of my screen here. There we go. So I didn't see any questions in the Google document here. Does anybody at this point have anything they'd like to ask about with regards to the sector analysis or sector compass at all, or does it sound like it's pretty straightforward? I think while I wait on anybody to reply, I think the most challenging part of this can be the graphics. And so the one nice thing is we do have some tutorials up here, so do check those out. And if you feel like doing this by hand, please, you know, don't hesitate to do that either. My wife and myself are very lucky with our software. We can generate the sectors pretty easily. And honestly, if you asked me to do that within the Google Slides, it would take me a little while. I'm not sure how I would manage that, but I know it's some of these parts of the software are fairly intuitive, so it shouldn't be too difficult. One warning, I'm not sure why they've done this, but there seems to be a black ring in the middle here, so you may or may not want to leave that. That can be confusing if you have all these other sectors and this black circle is left there. Sometimes that can be misinterpreted. So you may or may not want that in there, or you may want to diminish the width of it, the thickness of it, or the line weight, however you want to put that. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward assignment, and then we get into the SWOT analysis, which, it may seem like a bit of a pain at times, but I must say that, going through this, and after you've done this exercise, looking at the results of that and what the strengths and opportunities and weaknesses and threats are, that is a really helpful step to go through. We do have a question here. What's the software that you use for your designs? Yeah, we use, I'll just start it up for you so you can take a look at it. We use Vectorworks Landmark 2023. And you can actually get a free, I gotta learn how to spell. So you can go to Vectorworks Land, you can get a free download. They have a number of different modules, landscape being one of them. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you dive into this necessarily. The one thing is it's got a big learning curve to it. And during the course, we really want you to dial into the permaculture design process. I mean, I've been very lucky because we basically used this software for 25 years. So we chose the right one. Way back in the day, it was called MiniCAD. It wasn't called Vectorworks at that point. And it's quite a powerful software. It's got some weaknesses, but they all do. And we enjoy using it. I wouldn't want to switch now, but you can get a free trial. There is an excellent forum as well for support, and we use that quite a bit. But again, it's quite advanced, and I'm not sure I would recommend anybody just sort of dive into it. One of the, let's see here, some of the lower cost, easy to understand or a little easier to get into software. Morpheo Trace is one of those. That's quite it's a great app for an iPad with an iPencil. And we have it on our iPad, and I don't use it too much for design, mainly for sort of rough concepts, just between my wife and myself. We don't really use it for anything that we present to a client, but this is a great starting point for a lot of people, and low cost. Again, it's like $35 for a year, I think, may even be less. So this is a good spot to start if you find you're getting lots of work and you want to increase what you can do with this. Then sure, moving up into a CAD program might be a great idea. But one of the downsides to Vectorworks, to use it in its 3D mode and to use some of the, to make the most out of the modules in this, is you need quite a robust computer. So that is the downside when you go and get set up for it with your hardware. It can be a painful process. In terms of having to get something that's quite robust. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The more elaborate these softwares are, the more power you need in your computer. So let me see. So I hope that answered your question. Kevin's got a question here. Can you briefly go over finding out the winter and some sun angles? Sure, we can do that. So if we go to the assignment resources, we should get a link to a few sun calculator. There's one. So it's pretty easy. I would just put in your location. So we're not in Spain at the moment. I'll just put in where I live. And you can get, go wherever you want with that. And then on the left here, you want to, like right now, it's showing us basically live. So today's sun, it's right here. And here's our sun angle for today. But what we want to do is look at the summer and the winter solstice. We're not too concerned about the live one. So if you just click on the date, we can go back. I think it would be June 21st, close enough. And as you can see, our sun angle changed. So what I do with our software is I just take a screenshot of this and then I will import it. So I'll do that right now. And how you take your screenshot will depend on your software, or sorry, your operating system. So I'm going to stop share on that, and I'm just going to flip over to Vectorworks here. And I will, maybe I'll open something that's on the go here. Sorry, it's just going to take a second to load up. Just in the middle of a planting plan here. So we already have our sectors. We've done this. So let's say you have your Google slide and you paste in your, this is your summer sector. What I do is I just draw some lines to represent that angle. And then, you know, that's pretty close. And then I can get rid of that. And then boom, I got the angle I need to impose onto my drawing here. And that's how these were. I won't go into how I do them with this software, but those are the critical angles. And if we go back to our sun calculator here, and we can zoom out a little bit. The other thing we can do is hit, well, we want to get to December. And we'll go December 21st. So you can see the angle here changes dramatically. And that's the same thing. I would take a screenshot, go onto the page, get those two angles, you know, and you're done. And then, you know, that's just another reason why having your map orientated north up can be really helpful. Because every time you go onto a map like this, you are in, you know, automatically in that up position. Which again is a standard, and it's showing us right here. Now, I think you can, not sure if you can change this. No, I don't think so. I do use this software, but only for a few minutes every drawing. It's not very much, but it's very helpful to know. Now, the one thing that I do use quite a bit when I'm on a job site is an app for your phone called the Sun Seeker. And I would totally recommend this to anybody. It's a brilliant app. I use it on an Apple phone, but I think it works on Androids as well. And it has a couple of different modes that are really helpful. And one of the ones I really like here, well, you can see the sun path, right? So that's going to be very similar to what we're looking at. This is a very interesting one where you can basically, it pulls up a Google map and it will show you where the sun's position is going to be through the day. So that's very, very interesting. And this is also very helpful, this 3D augmented reality. So whenever we're on a site, in even our own, and we, for instance, we want to find out the best location for a greenhouse, we'll go around and, we'll say, hey, this feels the best, and then use this app to take a look and to see at different times of the year where the sun's going to be coming up and going down, and figure out the hours of sunlight based on that. So for some project sites, that wouldn't really matter. It could be, if you're on a very flat, open agricultural area, maybe not so critical, but where I live, whether there's lots of trees, it does really play into this, because in the wintertime we get a fraction of what we get during the summer. So this is a great app. Definitely help you out on that. All right. Well, I hope that helped, Kevin. Is that straightforward, Kevin, or is that way too much info? All right. Selena's got a question here. Do you have any examples of cultural challenges? Yeah, well, let's see. A cultural challenge. Well, a couple things that pop out would be, I mean, there's a lot of division, right, within our culture right now, and that's happening. In the United States, you could say that could be political, right? You're either Republican or Democrat. There's homelessness in most areas of North America. There's erosion of, well, this is my opinion. I would say there's an erosion of the middle class. Those would be a few things that, could be on your radar. And hopefully that helps you out. Okay, here, Kevin's got another question or comment. Hey, you're welcome, Selena. So Kevin was saying he's decided on housing, crime, and lack of diversity. Yeah, those would be very good. There are quite a number you could, unfortunately, there's quite a number you could dial into. And yeah, they're all very, very, you could pretty much pick anywhere in North America and they're gonna be somewhat applicable. And yeah, so hopefully that helps out. And yeah, I think those are good, Kevin. So I would go with that. All right. Let us see here what we've got. So we've gone through that Sunseeker. Go back to our assignment resources here. Yeah, we've got wind data. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. And so I'm not sure if we have any other questions on our assignment. If not, I'm happy to talk about anything. I can show you a few examples of what we've been doing. Totally up to you guys. We've got about 20 minutes. Okay, Maggie wants me to go through the wind data. Sure. Let me find one I use that I'm not sure is on the resource tab here. Just on another browser, and I'm going to grab it for you. All right. So this one's called Windfinder, and it's pretty reasonable. If I dial into, it's all very water-based. So if you're inland and in the US, this may not be the best. It may or may not. We can back out and go take a look. Oh yeah, there's lots of data. Okay. Probably more data on the water. And these basically just giving us current information. Gosh, this isn't quite as good as the other one that I had here. Aha, here's another one. Yeah, this one's a little better. This one's called Wind History. So we get a bit more historical info. Windhistory.com. And one thing I like about this is it's just showing us frequency. So if we want a little more info on that, we can decide what months we want to look at. So if we were looking at in August, we get average speeds, and then we get average, the frequency of direction. So you can see where the prevailing winds are coming and the percentage of it. And that's, fairly extensive. There seems to be an awful lot of data they're pulling. So regardless of where you are, let's see if we're down in Bend, Oregon, which I know at least one of you are. You could get some data here from Redmond. And again, you can choose what month. So what I do is I look at the winter, and then I usually look at that summer direction. And it's, there we go. So there we are in June. And then we can go to December there. So a little bit of difference. And then you could, if you wanted to, you then have, again, we're north up here, right? So if you were trying to interpret this info, you could say, well, there's the center of my drawing over here, and I would say, that's probably the winter wind sector. And when I say that, I would mean that wind would be coming from that direction. So because this is north up, this is a fairly easy angle to interpret and put on your drawing, right? So your sector may just run between these two lines for the winter. Now you don't have to separate your wind into summer and winter, but that's not necessarily a bad idea, because often in the winter we're trying to block, and you can see in this situation it does change, so that our summer wind sector would be probably more like that, with the wind coming in that direction. and then here's our average speed over here. So it's good data. It's just, you know, we do have to be mindful where it is. So in this this is a little bit away from, say, Bend, right? But, you know, close enough. And it does give us some interesting information. So I hope that helps out. I guess that was Maggie who asked about that. So yeah, I would, you could either use Windfinder, but I think windhistory.com is probably a better fit. And I think it looks like it's primarily North American. So cool. Now I know there's some people in the class here from Kenya, Niger. So it doesn't look like there's any data over there. I'm not sure if Windfinder goes outside. Oh, yes, it does. So there you go. So that might be a better bet. A little bit of data for Africa. So, okay. So that covers off our wind. Some of these other sectors that we're going to be asking you to interpret. Just go back to an example here. Yeah, so things like pollution and view corridors and all those, you're just going to have to, you know, there's no data to go off of that. You have to basically figure that out yourself. You know, approximations. The fire sector, same thing. Now, one thing I will say about the fire sector is if you're in an urban location, I would not expect to see a fire sector of any significance around your structure. If you're on acreage and you have, say, an interface, I'll just get the Google Earth going here to show you what I mean. You may find that that's quite different. So I'm not sure. This looks like it's more of an acreage. And there's certainly a fire sector there. So yeah, that's one thing. I sometimes see that in an urban setting, a fire sector all the way around, and I have a hard time what's the word? I have a hard time not believing it. That's not the right word. I have a hard time feeling that that's actually something you want to design to deflect, right? So that's how we're going to take all of this info as we're going forward, and as your design's getting put together, you can reflect back on this and go, okay, we've got a great view here. How are we maintaining that, if that's what you want? Here, I'm just going to flip over to Google Earth. And Maggie's got a comment here. Do we just omit the fire sector? Well, if you don't have that, absolutely. You don't have to use it. Let me just show you here. Got a few. Okay, so an example. So let's say we go and let's say this is our project site here, right here. Get my drawing tool. So we'll just throw up a quick property line. Wow, that's an interesting property line. I don't know. Well, that's not accurate, but we'll just say it is. And we're doing a sector analysis here. I imagine there would be lots of privacy noise, maybe pollution. But I don't see a fire sector here. I don't see where there would be a danger. Yes, this could catch on fire, your conifers here, but I really don't see that as a challenge, or something that you would need to include in a design. However, let me just back out here, and I see Wilfred has a comment. Great, I will get right to that. So let's just go a few a few blocks away. And we'll just put a pseudo property boundary up here. Let's say, this may not be right. Yeah, let's say this was your rough property boundary on this particular parcel. Well, you may find that you have a fire sector over here, right? So that potentially, if fire got going, it could impact your project site in this direction, right? So do take a look at, and I wouldn't even say this is an acreage setting, but it's right at that sort of interface on the outside, where you've got enough tree canopy here where it would certainly potentially cause some challenges. So hopefully that helps. And Wilford, if the design site is near the equator, do I still have to use winter and summer? No, that's a really good question, Wilfred. And what you could do is you probably have a dry and a wet season. Although your sun sector it's almost going to be unchanged through that. I would indicate the sun sector, and it would be probably, fairly consistent. Yeah, I would do one if you feel that is going to work for you. So let's go back to now I lost that link. Let's go find it again. All right, so let us all right. So we're in Kenya. I'm not sure where our equatorial line is. I'm sure we are close. I keep moving this around. There we go. So as you can see, the sun sector today is that. Now let's say we go to December. Yeah, it's changed. Now let me get, it's unfortunate, I cannot. Okay, we'll go. I know we're on the equator here. So let's go back to, oops. Yeah, that is bizarre. there's more of a change in the sun sector than I would have imagined. So, Wilfred, I would indicate, if you can, on your drawing, the extremes on both sides, because they do change a little bit. So it would be interesting, even though you probably feel that's not a huge shift with your climate. You probably have a dry and a wet season, I imagine. So I hope that helps out. Let me know if that is unclear, Wilfred. I'm happy to elaborate on it. Selena, you're considering using the power lines in the front of your design site as a fire sector. Yeah. Well, I suppose that there is a percentage of possibility that that could happen, where you get a surge on the line, or I've never seen that done, Selena. So if you wish to do that, I mean, go ahead. I guess one of my questions might be, if you feel that is a real threat, is that something that might have happened to you in terms of your experience? I'm not saying that that would not happen, for sure. I'm just unsure whether that's something that you'd want to structure a design around. Like, is that a sector you'd want to try and provide a little bit of protection for your project site from? So yeah, you'd want to consider that. You could also say that that has, electromagnetic radiation challenges, right? Because some people are very sensitive to that. We've had a client that was that, excuse me, had sensitivities, and so that's something you might want to put in your drawing for sure. Yeah, well, go ahead and do that, Selena. If you feel that that is really an issue that you want to address within your design, I think that it's good to certainly list it there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Alrighty, well, we are just getting near the top of the hour, and if anybody does have any questions or comments, certainly happy to answer any of those at this time. It can even be something not related to the sector analysis. Again, there's no questions there. All right. Well, I guess we are in good shape here, and everybody is pretty clear on what we're doing. Now, one thing I did not mention is one of the elements that is asked for is that's sometimes forgotten, and it may be because of the template. No. So when we're putting this together, just consider the closest grocery store, fuel station, some of these public spaces, and drop that into the, you can see where there is space here. Now that's, that's a good idea. And that can play into certain designs more than others. So it's just, again, more information. And when you look at this sheet here, there's quite a bit of information just on one design sheet. So I really do like the way this template file is set up. And again, it's providing lots of info and a great resource to look back on during the design phase. So, all right. So I think that we have covered all of that, everybody. If we are good and don't have any other questions, then I will probably sign off here, and we'll look forward to seeing your assignments next week. But so far, been very impressed with everybody's work, and look forward to seeing sector maps being produced and how those go. And if anybody has any issues at all, please don't hesitate to contact me during the week. Again, if you do have troubles and you can't run through them, you can definitely book an appointment. I can do a Zoom meeting with anybody if that is the case. Let me just pop that. It's usually not something that happens at this part in the course, but if it does, I just popped in a link there. You can click on that and book an appointment. We can have a quick Zoom meeting to help you move through any challenges you might have. So, all right. Well, everybody have a great week. Thank you very much for all of your participation today and the excellent questions. And you are all very welcome. And thank you for the feedback. But have a great rest of your day, and look forward to seeing your assignments next week. See you later.